Plenty to pick out then from that Harry Maguire interview. He talks about United altering their style this season, defending more aggressively and playing more in the opponent's half. Let's pick out a couple of those points there in a bit more detail. United were one of the best teams on the counter-attack, undoubtedly, under Michael Carrick in the second half of last season. They ranked third in the Premier League for fast breaks, which is essentially a proxy for counter-attacking. And they also scored 4 goals from those fast breaks. No other team scored more. They also created the second most chances in transition at 83. And just to reinforce the point of them being a compact and counter side, look at their average defensive line height there. Now, the average position of the deepest defensive player out of possession was 34 metres, and that places them 15th in the Premier League ranking. So only 5 other teams were defending deeper than Manchester United on average across their games under Michael Carrick. So how much do they need to change then in order to defend more aggressively, as Maguire talked about there? So here we have possession won in the final third in the horizontal, and in the vertical we have pressed sequences. So the higher the number of press sequences, the more aggressive you are in the opponent's defensive third. Now, in the top right-hand side, you'll see the Brighton badge there. So very aggressive out of possession. You can also see Arsenal there, Manchester City, Liverpool and Bournemouth as well. Actually very, very similar, with Andoni Iraola now obviously going to Liverpool. But if you're towards the bottom left here, you're pressing the opponent in their opposition zones a little bit less. And you can see Manchester United towards the bottom left here, right on top of Fulham. So will they want to move more towards what you might regard as the top teams there, Arsenal, Manchester City and Liverpool? And Maguire also talks about playing closer to the opposition goal. Now, for that, we can show you the field tilt rankings for the Premier League from when Carrick took over. So field tilt tells us about a team's territorial control and sustained attacking pressure. It's the average share of final third passes against your opponent. Now, the higher the percentage points here, the more you are pinning the opposition back. This is the share of final third passes. So, as you might expect, Manchester City right at the top under Pep Guardiola, they like to pin the opponent back into their defensive third. United, though, ranking at 10th in the Premier League there at a 48% field tilt. So will they want to bring that up towards so-called better sides in the division, Manchester City, Liverpool and Arsenal right at the top of the rankings. Asmir, how would you like to see United evolve this season? Do they need to change? It seemed to be working well for them in the second half of last season.
Yeah, I think, listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think first and foremost. So if their identity is to be a transition team and defend well and then, attack in those transition moments and use the pace that they have, because they do have some really, really fast players. You look at like Amad Diallo, Brian Mbeumo, a lot of pace in that team. But I think overall, long term, I think there still has to be a plan B, maybe a plan C. So sometimes keep possession, when they can. I think bringing the likes of Yuri Tielemans is really, really important. I think he's someone who can make them tick, get on the ball, keep possession at times. So I think there has to be a way of, keeping a little bit more control of games, because I don't think you can transition all the time. But at the same time, make sure you don't lose the things that made him successful last season.
And for Harry Maguire, for him as a player, I mean, this is now, you mentioned it earlier, his 8th season. He's had a whole host of centre-back partnerships. As a goalkeeper, do you like to have a settled back four in front of you and settled central defenders?
Yeah, I think as a goalkeeper, as any manager, any defender, I think if you can have a settled sort of back five, as you call it, the back four and the goalkeeper, that unit, the more of that you can keep consistent, the better it is. So I think it's, again, down to injuries, down to things you maybe can't control. But I think overall, if Man United, with Lamens now established himself as number one, if he can keep the 2 centre-halves fit in front of him, keep that base really, really solid, keep it consistent, add the fullbacks within that, then I think, of course, it gives him a really good base to build from and hopefully make those changes in the other parts of the pitch that are maybe easier to make rather than the back line.
Nice. OK, stay with...
Yeah, interesting stuff there from Harry Maguire there, Asmir. He used the word competitive a number of times in that interview. With 2 weeks to go in this window and the squad as it is at Old Trafford just now, is he right to think that United can be competitive for the biggest competitions?
Well, I certainly think when you look back at their body of work under Michael Carrick last year, I think they can be very competitive this year. But then you have to add in the extra demands of Europe, The expectations gone up within the fan base. You know, I think it's when you have success like they did last year, now fans want more. They want Man United to be back at the level that we know Man United can be at, and that's competing, challenging for the Premier League for all the trophies. So I think to do that, they definitely need to add a little bit more. I think there's a little bit of strength and depth that's lacking within that squad. Obviously, Ugarte getting injured wasn't ideal, so I think you have to look at that central midfield position as maybe an area where they still need to get in one more body. I think Yuri Tielemans is a fantastic signing, Premier League proven, internationally proven. Andre Santos is a really good player. So they have some options, but I certainly think they need to do a little bit more business before now and the end of the window.
Michael Carrick has said this. You know, last week he said he wants more, needs more. As you say, we've had 2 signings coming in, but then it's gone a bit quiet. So has that come as a surprise?
A little bit.
They can be difference makers, those 2.
I think they can be difference makers in the fact that, especially Yuri Tielemans, someone who knows the Premier League. We saw what Casemiro did. He came in with a level of presence, with a level of leadership, know-how and experience. When he came into Manchester United, made a big impact. So I think Yuri Tielemans can as well. But I think also what Michael Carrick has shown, no matter who plays, it's really about the collective. It's about the system. He maybe didn't bring in the superstars that we're used to maybe Man United signing over the last few years, but they brought really solid players, good players, players who are going to, work really hard for the team, make that difference when they need to. But they still have the likes of Bruno Fernandes and match winners at the top end of the pitch who are really the people that you want to make that difference.
You preempted my next question because Bruno Fernandes, there still seems to be a huge reliance on him. That not for sale is the defiant message coming out of Manchester United, unsurprisingly. There's been interest from Galatasaray, we think. How much do you think United's success is still dependent on Bruno Fernandes performing almost like he did last season?
Yeah, I think probably a little bit too much, to be honest with you. I think, again, he's their key player, he's their captain, he's their talisman. And of course, as much as we're talking about strengthening the squad, God forbid he was to leave, then that would leave a massive hole. So he can't go. I think he's definitely one of their untouchables. But I do think, when we talk about strengthening that central midfield area, I still think they need to add a little bit more in those attacking areas because you need options. You're going to be playing in 4 different competitions. The Champions League is obviously now an added layer for them and an added burden on the whole squad. So from that aspect, I still think they need some players in the front end of the pitch. I think Mateus Cunha played in the number 9 in their last friendly. I think Marcus Rashford coming back is helpful. But again, he's more of a winger and Mbeumo's more of a winger. Amad Diallo's more of a winger. So I still think in an ideal world, perfect world, they can use a little bit more help in that number 9 position to take some of that pressure and load off Bruno Fernandes as well.
The opening 2 games for United are against newly promoted teams in Hull and Ipswich. When we look at last season, they took 4 points from their first 4 games. They can't afford another start like that, surely.
No, they can't. And again, that brings immediate pressure onto everybody. So I think they want to start fast. It's 2 on paper fixtures that they expect to win. But again, it's never easy playing newly promoted side with their self-belief and confidence and the energy they're going to bring coming up from the championship. So not going to be easy. But really looking at it, Manchester United to get to the level as well of taking that next step and competing for those trophies, getting off to a good start is absolutely crucial.
Maguire, who has called on Manchester United to buy more players this summer.
Yeah, Yuri Tielemans and Andre Santos have arrived, but United have spent just £93 million so far, which is less than newly promoted Coventry City.
So with just a few days to go until their opening game away at Hull, Maguire has sat down with our reporter, Dan Khan.
Harry, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Another pre-season done. How are you feeling, first of all?
Yeah, really good. It's been a long pre-season, I think 6 weeks. I think that's probably the longest I've had in the last 10 years or so. But yeah, in a good place physically and mentally, and I think as a squad, I think we're ready to go. We're looking forward to the season. Everyone wants the Premier League to be starting again, and so do we. We're looking forward to the weekend, and hopefully it's a good start for us.
Just spending a little bit of time in Dublin around the group, it does feel like they're very close, and the camaraderie is absolutely there, especially with the coaching staff. I mean, does it feel like that right now? Is this the closest group you feel like maybe since you've been at the club?
I think winning football matches bring teams closer. It always helps when you're winning, and so to finish the season like we did last season for the last months of the season, and to win so many football matches, that does bring you closer. So we've got to make sure that we win this season so that we can come even closer.
And I appreciate you've probably been asked this quite a lot over the last 7 years when maybe there's been a change in manager, head coach, but does it feel slightly different under Michael Carrick? I mean, what does it feel?
Yeah, I think that only thing what you can go on is the results since Michael's come in, and I think there's no doubt about it that at the start of last season, I don't think no one would have said that we would have finished third. And for sure, when Michael come in the first 2 games with Man City and Arsenal, then we would have finished third then as well. We went on an amazing run, and credit to the boys, credit to Michael and all his staff, and credit to the fans. They got what they deserved in the end. So yeah, it was a good season last season when you put things into reality. Of course, this club wants to be winning big trophies and being part of winning cups. We know that, and we know that it demands that. But from where we was, losing that Europa League final, finishing 15th to finish third and put the club back in the Champions League, it was a good season. But we don't stop here. We can't stop here when you play for this club. We need to be challenging for the big trophies, to be competitive in the Premier League, to be competitive in the Champions League, and also to go, which we didn't do last season, which was disappointing on that behalf, and be competitive in the Carabao and the FA Cup.
I want to ask you about one of your new-ish teammates, someone you knew for a little bit at Leicester City, and Yuri. What's it been like reuniting with Yuri after so many years? And I asked him in Dublin about what it was like seeing you, and he mentioned, obviously you were at different stages of your careers at Leicester City. You were with Johnny, for example, but it's been great, seeing you once again, but back at Manchester United. Yeah,
definitely. It's really good. I only spent a few months with him at Leicester. He was a young lad when he come through it. At Leicester, I think he was 21, 22 years old when I played with him. So, but you always seen the talent that he had, even in them early days. He's excellent on the ball, and I think he's a big game player. So he's suited to this club. He turns up in the big moments, in the big matches, and I think he was excellent for Leicester. He was part of a successful Leicester team, and then he's just been part of a successful Aston Villa team. So he knows how to bring success, and no, we're really happy that he's here, and I'm sure he's going to help us throughout the season.
With Andre and Carlin, 2 other signings, who knows if there are more before the deadline, but I just wonder, you talked about competing in different competitions this season, Champions League especially. When you look at the squad depth, do you think this squad are ready to do that this season?
Yeah, I think Andre and Carlos, they're another two great signings for us. When you play for this club, you want competition for places, and it's so important that we have a huge squad. Listen, I'm at an age now where they can bring in as many as they want, bring in all the best players. I want to win all the trophies and be greedy about it, but it's up to the club. I'm sure they're working hard out there to try and bring in the right players. And yeah, the more the merrier. The stronger squad that we have, the more opportunity we have of winning these trophies, and that's what it's all about when you play for this club. So no, we've got a good depth of squad, but of course I'm sure they're working hard on helping us and bringing more in.
Lenny mentioned you can compete for the title this season. Is that the belief in the squad right now? Do you think this team can go for the title this year? I mean, there has been a lot of change around the Premier League, as well as how you feel about your own selves. You mentioned how great the changing room feels right now, but do you really feel that this team can go on and really pose a challenge this season?
Well, first and foremost, the Premier League is the toughest league in the world. It's the most competitive league in the world, so we want to be competitive within it. Of course, the old cliche of taking each game as it comes and see where we're at. We want to improve on last season. We finished last season super strong under the manager and his staff, so we want to be competitive. Everyone wants to win the Premier League, and yeah, of course, that's going to be our aim. That's what this club demands, and we have the belief that we can be really competitive and we can beat anyone on our day. So it's going to be an exciting season this season. I think obviously Arsenal won the league last year and won it pretty comfortably in the end. So I think they're the team which everyone's got to go and catch and chase. They've improved. They've obviously signed again in the summer and improved their squad. So yeah, they're the team that everyone's going to chase and hunt down, and we've got to be in that pack to be challenging, of course.
Harry, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.